Hi, everybody. Dan DeFedericis of Saratoga Report. I am here with Aaron Calvin. Aaron Calvin is a reporter for the newspaper 7 Days, which is based out of Burlington, Vermont, which may seem a little odd, but hang on with us for a minute. We'll explain the relevance here. Aaron wrote an article earlier this week for 7 Days. I'm going to read the headline here. Healthy Living appeals to NLRB, that's the National Labor Relations Board, not to recognize its labor union. A little bit of background. The workers at the 3 and soon to be 4, because there is a one going in Half Moon, New York, just south of here, of course. But the workers at the current 3 Healthy Living voted earlier this year, maybe it was late last year, to join a labor union to represent the workers, both in collective bargaining and other aspects of labor. And the company, Healthy Living, the parent company, has been fighting that. And Aaron has been writing on this for a while. He's written a number of articles. Aaron, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing? And say hello to the folks watching Saratoga Report.
Doing well. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Burlington, Vermont, which is my primary coverage focus. And Healthy Living has definitely been a part of that. There are 2 locations, one in South Burlington and one in Williston, which is sort of part of the larger Burlington metro area, Chittenden County area. And yeah, sort of tangentially started reporting on the company and talked to a number of employees at their Saratoga location as well. So happy to chat and talk about the Saratoga specifics as well.
Okay, great. I framed it up a little bit. Something tells me you could do a better job. Could you, because you've been in deep with this, reporting on it. Could you frame it up for people maybe a little more than I did?
Sure. So in April, I started reporting on an effort to unionize the staff at all 3 current stores of Healthy Living, which we established are in Vermont and New York. And at that time, they had formed the union with the purpose of sort of raising the base level of pay. Right now, according to reports from the union and listed job listings, the pay starts around $15 to $16 an hour. They're hoping to get that up to $20 an hour to start. Many of the employees I spoke with work second jobs just to be able to afford to live in the Burlington area, which is quite expensive, has been getting quite expensive in the post-pandemic years, and as well as other things like having more control over their workplace and stuff like that. And Healthy Living was formed in 1986. It was founded by a woman named Katie Lesser, and her children, Eli and Nina Lesser Goldsmith, now run the company. So it's a family affair, and the uh, staff voted successfully to form a union at the end of April, and the company objected to that vote, challenged it with the regional National Labor Relations Board based out of Buffalo. Um, and in July, that board passed out a decision that basically dismissed all of the claims and the contesting of the vote without um, holding a hearing or even anything like that. They just, basically said that there was no evidence for any of the claims that they said should disqualify the election results, and they certified the union. And so now, the most recent article I wrote is about Healthy Living's appeal to the National Labor Relations Board in Washington, D.C. That board has changed a little bit. I'm sure we can get into that in a little bit, but basically, a new appeal that has become public in that process, a 700-page appeal, sort of gave me and others for the first time a real look at what Healthy Living was claiming. So now we're in the process of waiting to see how the National Labor Relations Board will consider Healthy Living's claims and what they'll have to say about it.
Great. And can I ask you to back up a little bit and tell me if I'm wrong in my encapsulation of this process from the healthy living perspective? They fought this vehemently from the get-go. Is that accurate?
Yeah, pretty much, Healthy Living contends that they offer a lot of, remarkable benefits to their employees and treat their employees well. Obviously, unionizing members hoped that they could sort of push for higher pay, but Healthy Living notes in its most recent appeal to the board that they offer things like a 401k and health insurance, and different perks like that. So I think Healthy Living's sort of argument here from the beginning is that they are a good place to work, and they shouldn't need a union um, to uh, to ensure that the workplace is a good place to work.
Great. And I wanted to follow up on a conversation you and I had offline yesterday that those in Saratoga, as well as I'm assuming Vermont, um, maybe those that shop there regularly or semi-regularly, like I do, maybe a little bit surprised by this because labor union, living wage, helping workers. It seems aligned with sort of what both healthy living would stand for. Not that I know exactly what the company would stand for, but by being a shopper there, I joke you don't see too many MAGA hats. You see a few Priuses in the parking lot. It's a more progressive clientele. The staff seems progressive, and yet the company is taking a very different tack that does not seem aligned with progressive beliefs and progressive policies. Basically, that would be pro labor. And I never, it's not to say that they were something or other. It just doesn't seem aligned when you walk through healthy living several times a year, like I do. You would not expect that company to be vehemently fighting a labor movement. You have thoughts on that?
Right. Yeah. Mean, yeah, healthy living is, sort of like a local Whole Foods, right? Their value proposition is that their food and their products are often sourced locally. They're sort of ahead of the game on that one, and have built up a very devoted clientele that seeks them out specifically because of these things they offer. The union has definitely pointed out that this opposition to the union has by healthy living is sort of contradictory to the progressive image that they try to burnish for themselves. Particularly this appeal to the National Labor Relations Board, which only just last week or 2 weeks ago actually installed a new Republican member to the board to bring it to a Republican majority, which will now put them in the position to start making decisions that undo precedent that was established during the Biden administration. So the union has definitely accused Healthy Living of trying to seek common cause with the Trump administration, which many of their shoppers, I think, at in the Burlington area um, and in Saratoga Springs would probably be a little concerned about, just from the shoppers that I've spoken to about this in the Burlington area already. I will note that neither of the lesser goldsmiths have commented on the record for this story, so I'm not familiar with what their thinking is here. But I think it's important to note that Eli Lesser Goldsmith in internal communications with his employees has stated that he is not opposed to unions personally, and doesn't see a problem with them in general or even at his stores. I think their main issue is these claims that they've made in their appeal, which is that they were the victim of basically what's called a salting campaign. It's a tactic that unions use, and Workers United, the national union that is helping Healthy Union unionize, has used to unionize powerful national chains like Starbucks. It's basically where somebody gets hired at a place like a Starbucks and does so with the explicit intention of unionizing that store, of trying to organize the other people who work there. And in their appeal, Healthy Living is claiming that salts paid by Workers United um, got jobs specifically at the store in the 8 months or so preceding the union vote, and organized their stores and did so with the express intention of forming this union. So what the what Healthy Living is trying to do here is get the National Labor Relations Board to rule on whether or not it is allowable for a bunch of people who never intended to work at Healthy Living long term, but only got jobs there to unionize it, and then boost the pro union voters in the union vote, and then quit immediately afterwards. They sort of state that they have seen a pattern of hirings and resignations that support this idea. Though I will say that there is no evidence in the appeal to support this accusation, and legal experts I've spoken to have also said that. Also, it's also important to note that salting and even paid salts that are paid by the union to get a job somewhere just to unionize it, that's all legal, and has been for decades, and has been supported by several different Supreme Court decisions. So really, Healthy Living is hoping that the board will rule on this sort of narrow idea or sort of upend precedent, legal precedent, which would be really surprising. But also, as we've seen, the Trump administration and the conservative U.S. Supreme Court has not shied away from upending other precedents. So that it's still potentially in play. It just seems unlikely.
You touched on this a little earlier. You've a two-part question. I think you told me, and I want to clarify and have you expand on that. That you have tried reaching out to the company, but they did not get back to you. And also, have you seen? Could you touch on more of is this having an effect on the company, the customer base, and so forth? I think you did say a little bit about that. I guess I'm looking for if you have any more on that.
Yeah, like I said, neither Eli or Nina Lester Goldsmith, who are the CEO and COO of Healthy Living, have been willing to comment on the record for this story at any point over the last few months. And as far as the effect that it's having on the company, I have heard from some shoppers at Healthy Living with, some reaching out with wanting to learn more, especially before this most recent article came out about some claims that Eli Lester Goldsmith has been making to concerned customers that are reaching out to him, where he's sort of told them about the things that have been come to light in the appeal. But as far as what the effect on the company is, I really can't say. It's a privately held company, so their earnings and stuff like that are not public. I went to the location in South Burlington the other day, and it was quite crowded. So I am really not sure, especially at this point, if we can say if this is having any kind of effect on their business.
Okay. It seems to me that regardless of what the national board decides, that this may very well end up in the courts.
It could. I am not quite certain what the path forward for the contest would be if it's dismissed or not really even taken up by the board. I think the broader picture thing to look at here is that all of these attempts, regardless of their merits or success in the labor legal system, it has accomplished one effect, which is to delay the recognition of this union. So, if that is a goal of Healthy Livings, they are at least being successful at that. I can't really say if that is the goal, but they've employed some labor law experts and legal representation in Burlington, and they have certainly shown a willingness to continue to push their claims as far as they can.
Okay, and from what you've seen, the union obviously is not backing off at all. They're fighting pretty vehemently. In fact, I think your article accused them of lies, misrepresentation. The unions accused the company of lies, misrepresentations, and half truths. That's a quote. So it seems like this is pretty spirited battle, to say the least, right?
Right. Yeah, they're certainly pushing back, and Workers United is no stranger to um, efforts to discredit and disqualify unionization efforts. You know, the nationwide unionization of Starbucks stores started in Buffalo with Workers United, and so yeah, they're not backing down. Their response to Healthy Living's appeal to the National Labor Relations Board was, as you just quoted, very blunt and quite strong. You know, accusing Healthy Living of making all of these accusations without any evidence, and you know, just you know, also just doing things like saying that a certain employee was, you know, picketing someplace when it was actually not that employee. It was just the person in the picture was not them. So, and you know, they throughout the appeal, they sort of make this claim that a core group of employees was being paid by Workers United and working with a sort of an obscure, very small political party that's somewhat active in Vermont called the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And the sort of interesting thing about these claims is, you know, I talked to a few of the employees who are identified in this appeal, and their names with their known addresses and phone numbers, and sort of a background about them. And, you know, as sort of like the situationally supporting evidence for these claims is included in the appeal. So they're pretty easy to reach. All of them denied these accusations, but, you know, some of them are, or, you know, the ones who are part of this core group of union supporting employees do have, you know, very public and open histories of being into politics and supporting unions, and um, you know, being active with organizations like the Democratic Socialists of America, which, you know, their high profile um, member, New York City Mayor Mamdani, you know, is probably the most high profile example of that group's success in recent years. But it's interesting, you know, that Healthy Living sort of accuses these employees and former employees of, you know, being paid by Workers United and being in bed with the socialists. And it's sort of true that some of them are socialists, but no, you know, so far they've completely denied that anybody was ever paid, and any effort to support a union was done so out of their own, you know, personally held beliefs.
Listen, there's no doubt going in this case. It's literally on the schedule, on the calendar. Would you join us again when there are developments on this case?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to.
Okay, excellent. Aaron Calvin of 7 Days in Burlington, Vermont. Thank you again for joining us and giving us, enlightening us, giving us some insight into this matter. Take care, Aaron.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.